The Flash is so bad that it actually managed to flop twice. It's almost impressive how WB has fumbled the ball with these DC properties over the past few years. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Our ambition is to bring Warner back and to produce great high-quality films. We're going to focus on quality. We're not going to release any film before it's ready. The focus is going to be how do we make each of these films, in general, as good as possible. We have some great DC films coming up, Black Adam, Shazam, and Flash. And we're working on all of those. We're very excited about them. We've seen them. We think they're terrific, and we think we could make them even better.
After my scathing review of a very forgettable Flash movie earlier this summer, all I had were people in my mentions telling me how wrong I was, and how this movie was going to have a second life on streaming, and that people would come to appreciate it.
Sure, Jan.
But we all knew that was a big line of bullshit. No matter how bad people want to deflect from the truth will always win out in the end. There's only so much fake hype and fake praise that you can give a terrible movie before people start to realize that it's nothing more than fanboy bull.
I know you. And I know when you got something brewing.
Now you could sit here and tell me you had a good time with the Flash movie, and that's cool. I'll buy that. I'll accept that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that you enjoyed a bad film. I even do that from time to time. The difference is that I can admit when something I like is bad. I love Weekend at Bernie's, but you don't see me coming on here and proclaiming it to be the godfather of comedies.
Why do these things always happen to me?
There's a difference between personal preference and whether or not a film is actually good or not. And I don't know how anyone with any knowledge of the filmmaking process can look at a movie like Flash and think that it's well made. The head of DC on film right now might have said that it's the best superhero movie ever made, but that doesn't necessarily make it true. And let's face it, James Gunn says a lot of things that make me question his film knowledge.
Who's this prick?
Shut the f*** up! Plus, we all know that James Gunn was just trying to save face and drum up some kind of interest in this brand that he is now in control of. Regardless of how involved he was in this movie, he had a vested interest in how the public perceived it. With fans, on the other hand, I expect a delusional take from them from time to time. Because as a fan, you desperately try to convince yourselves and others that something is good even when it isn't.
That makes sense.
I've done that myself also. Hell, here's something you don't know about me. I tried to convince myself that Justice League from 2017 was good at one time in my life. And this was before I knew about what WB did to Zack Snyder. And I desperately wanted to like that movie because of who I perceived to be involved. But deep down, I knew something was off. And over time, I came to accept the fact that I was lying to myself about that movie initially.
So I strongly suggest that you wake the up.
So I'm talking from experience here when I say more time will not be kind to a movie like The Flash. You think people watching this movie at home with the ability to pause, fast forward, and rewind is going to help the experience? If anything, that's only going to amplify its very obvious flaws 10 times over. And on top of all of that, there has to be genuine interest in the film to begin with for people to want to fire up Max and click on The Flash and dedicate some time to it.
Don't waste my motherfucking time!
And I think the box office numbers for this film showed us how little interest general audiences have in it. And now that lack of interest has continued with its release on streaming. It's been reported that The Flash was streamed by 1.1 million households in its weekend debut. Now for some of you, you might be thinking, well, that sounds pretty good actually. Not when you factor in that the number is actually down 8% from the weekend debut numbers of Black Adam, another movie that nobody gave a shit about. For comparison's sake, The Batman, a movie that is considered a success, especially considering it's getting a sequel, did over 4 million streams in the same amount of time. Also, when you take into consideration that Max is reported to have around 97.6 million global subscribers, and only about 1 million of those subscribers decided to watch this movie basically for free, That should tell you a lot about the lack of interest in this film.
See, nobody cares.
Granted, I'm sure The Flash isn't available in all of those markets, but no matter how you try to justify it, 1.1 million streams is not good. Not for a movie that was sold to us as the return of Michael Keaton, and was sold to us as the end of a DC era on film. Literally nobody cared, and the people that did care enough to give it a shot didn't have the most positive reactions to it.
No, don't like that.
It's a mess of a movie, period. You could see that from the marketing, and you could see that from all the controversy that surrounded it leading up to its release. Truthfully, I never wanted to make a video about a DC property failing like this, but considering the shady business practices of WB, and the real lack of effort put into their most recent releases, they pretty much got what was coming to them. In life, bad decisions will most likely result in serious consequences.
Get what you deserve!
And I think that's where WB finds itself right now. And because of the current streaming landscape, it's not like they can fall back on physical media numbers to help recoup some costs. So we have a situation where WB Studios and many other movie studios have literally shot themselves in the foot. Because right now most of them are making a bad product that people aren't interested in, and they have no alternative way of making up for their creative shortcomings.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
I would like to say that this would be a wake-up call for WB, but I doubt it. There's too many built-in excuses that they can use as to why Flash flopped twice, and we know they aren't going to take responsibility for it because there's just too many apologists out there who still refuse to hold them accountable for their actions. But I'm just not one of those people. Believe it or not, I want what's best for DC and these characters. But I'm also not going to be accepting of mediocrity. I'm going to demand better when necessary because that's the only way we're going to get better. We aren't doing this brand or these characters any favors by making excuses for the creatively bankrupt company that currently owns them.
Talk to you soon, okay? Bye!
Y'all be cool. Right on.